All right, listen, that's I think we've got enough clips to piss off the USMNT fan base. So let's move on then to um, let's move on to your favorite team. We're gonna go down to Florida and talk about the Orlando City SC Purple Lions because they have signed Oscar Pareja to a multi-year extension, and as similar to Dolo, my boy, he has been the best manager Orlando has seen in MLS in their MLS time by a long shot. But also similar to Dolo, he has fallen short of expectations set of him, which include winning trophies. In his time at Orlando, which started before COVID, by the way, this is now going on 6 years. His only trophy to date is a U.S. Open Cup that he needed to use spy drones on a USL team to beat in the final. We all remember that day. Yep, remember that story? That's a thing that will be spoken about in MLS history retold about 5 years
Oh
down the
yeah,
line.
absolutely.
Listen, Connor, I want to ask you, as a lifelong Orlando and Oscar Pareja fan, as is evident by your top 10 foreign managers of all time list, how do you feel about this King's return? Please enlighten me.
Listen. Let's slow our roll here for a second. All right. If I'm a Pareja fan, it's because of his time in Dallas, not because of his time in purple and gold. All right.
Oh, sure,
Let's
sure,
just
sure,
get that straight.
sure.
Um, I feel like a pretty different situation from Dolo, where Dolo has won plenty of things in his short tenure. Like Pareja has had more time with this team, and he's won less than Pareja has. Or sorry, than Dolo has. So I think the view is going to be a little bit different. But what I will say is I think Pareja's time is a little bit more similar to the way that LAFC fans will see Bob Bradley, right? Because it's like he came in and the bar was on the floor. It may have even been below the floor. It may have been in the basement. And so when he kind of came in and turned things around, and now all of a sudden Orlando's consistently in the playoffs, I think people are going to be very excited about that and remember it fondly. Not only that, he like brought in exciting attacking talent. You had Nani, you had Facundo Torres. He's developed a lot of talent like Daryl Dike and Duncan McGuire. So you've seen a lot of exciting people and an exciting game, a play style, and I think people are going to remember that fondly. But like the reality is, they've only won one trophy, and like you said, it took spy drones against the USL team to win that trophy. Otherwise, they have. I mean, the closest I think they've technically come was 2023 when they finished second in Supporter Shield. They've never even been to a final other than that. Other than I think MLS's back tournament. I think they were runner up for that.
Which, as we know, is the what second highest honor you can earn in MLS, right?
Something like that. Something like that.
It's supporter shield. MLS is back, then MLS Cup, then US Open Cup, then Leagues Cup,
Uh, Sounds about
something like
right.
that.
Well, you missed CONCACAF Champions League in there, or CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's the thing. It's actually it's Champions Cup, then Champions League, then MLS Cup, then MLS is back, then it's Supporter Shield, then it's Leagues Cup or Open Cup, depending on which way you look at it. And then what is it? Eastern
The
Conference
Canadian
Final?
Championship.
No, Eastern Conference Final above U.S. Open Cup because Red Bull won that last year, so we're going to take that. And actually, the U.S. Open Cup they won should have been Red Bull. We lost in the semifinals, so that actually doesn't even count. They cheated their way to that. Yeah, so Red Bull clear. There you go. There's your scarf. There's your scarf
Here's
for
your
me.
daily Red Bull reference. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one to judge, to be honest with you. I can't make the decision for an Orlando fan. I think they would have the better insight on this, but like I kind of would be like, at what point are we going to start winning? Like we've been consistently closer to winning than we were before, but we haven't even been in a final since 2020.
I'm right
Or
on board
sorry,
with you.
2022.
Yeah, well, I'm right on board with you. Even if you want to keep cutting me off, that's fine. Because my first thought when Dolo said he was leaving was like, can you find somebody to replicate the regular season success he had? Because at the end of the day, if you can't regulate, if you can't find that success in the regular season, you don't even get the chance to replicate it in the playoffs, right? But like you said, with Pareja, it feels different, and I agree, right? Because since 2020, you're looking at a team that never finished lower than seventh in the East, meaning consistent playoffs for 5 years on the back of never qualifying, right? That was the first time they made it was under Pareja, and they haven't missed it since. And they were second in the Supporters Shield race in 23, and they were a Facundo Torres bottle job away from making MLS Cup last year. I was there. It was great. But with each year that passes without a trophy, it feels more and more like he may have reached his limit. And I'm gonna share my thoughts on that in a second. I'd love for you to respond to that because I don't know if he's reached his limit because he had the new manager bounce in 2020 plus COVID, right? And then he came back down to earth, right? Snuck into the playoffs in 21, snuck into the playoffs in 22. Then you see him take that step up in 2023, finish in second place, and in 2024 with that semifinal loss to Red Bull in the MLS Cup playoffs. I don't think that anybody should be screaming Pareja out right now, right? I think this is similar to Peter Vermees' sort of conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. How are you going to fire a guy who is consistently getting you in position to win trophies and getting you closer every time, right? I don't want to say Vermees was getting closer every time, but he has gotten closer to Supporter Shield, closer to MLS Cup each and every year. I don't know how you look at him like, oh yeah, he's not the right guy for the job. Now, and this is where I want your opinion because I'm giving you two options here. If you want to sit here and tell me that he's inching very, very close to being Gary Smith, and you think that you're getting as much as you can out of him, and semifinals and runners up are the only thing you're going to get out of him, then I'll hear that. I'll listen to that argument. But I don't think I'm going to listen to it right now because he's got them, he's earned that leash, like we talked about with Vermees. If he enters the midseason break outside of the playoffs like he was last year, yeah, I can definitely start hearing the conversation, but he's one game out of the top four right now. And this team is scoring like crazy, right? If you can reel in that back line a little bit, team's going to be fine. But I do think it's something in the back of your mind that, how much farther can you go with this coach? And I just think right now it's too early for anybody to be doing that. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I want to say that I agree that he's deserved like to continue for more time. I think he's earned that. Like you said, he's steadied their ship. He's got them in and around the playoffs. He really like took a step forward in 2023, made them a very competitive team, and even last year made a deep run into the MLS Cup playoffs. I think you give him more time, but I think also you kind of allude to the fact that like you got to start winning trophies at this point in this time period that we're giving you. Otherwise, we have to like move on and find someone else who's going to take us to the finish line. Like I'm not sure if he's gonna like be in the Gary Smith kind of bubble or however we want to like classify that grouping of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like I think Gary Smith was kind of capped out at like being a mid table playoff team in the East every single year. Whereas like at least for Pareja, we've seen him kind of go beyond that and finish closer to the finish line. He just kind of has to like take the last few steps to get there. And I think the pressure's on for him to win trophies, considering he did take that step in 2023. And then they bolstered his team more. Like they brought in good pieces. I know they had like a lot of rotation as well. There was movement of guys in and out of the team, but they've continued to back him financially and bringing in players. And at some point, you got to be like, all right, could somebody else come in and actually take us to the finish line at this point with the money and stuff that we're throwing at the team? Because it feels like they're throwing enough at the team to win something. But again, like a point that I think you made with or with Dolo that I think
Gotta catch
makes
yourself. Gotta
sense.
remember your boys.
I know, of course. I think he's playing in a very difficult era of MLS right now. I mean, you're going up against Wilfred Nancy's Columbus team, who everybody in the league seems to try to be throwing players their way to help them out. So that's not helpful. And then you're also going against Inter Miami and Messi and friends, who's you're going against the greatest player of all time, like both of which are in your conference. That's going to be hard to deal with. Like as much as Orlando's throwing money at and bringing in good players, they're not getting players to the level of Columbus and Miami, where there's probably only so far he could take them without like bringing in players of that stature. So I think he's earned more time, but I think he is definitely on Gary Smith watch.
Yeah, well, and that's a perfect example. The reason why I had him there was this isn't like Gary Smith, where it was like we're only going to sign American players who have played 3 years or more in MLS, and you're gonna have to make it work. He's got big names, he's got big money, and if he can't put it together, then you got to start asking, okay, what's going on here? So I agree with you there. I think that's a really good point. And we'd love to hear our listeners' points or our listeners' thoughts because that's kind of we are outside looking in as kind of just general MLS fans here, but we'd love to hear fans from Orlando, right? And you know who you are, John. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us give us your thoughts.